Teaching Entrepreneurship. Peter Kelly sharing his thoughts on activating talent from within, opening one's mind and seeing opportunity everywhere. Peter Kelly is a professor of practice, high-growth ventures Aalto University in Finland. Recorded at Riga International School of Economics and Business Administration, Riga, Latvia, and the Calfarino Conference, Creative Activities in Learning for Innovation, Goldsmiths, University of London, UK.
So we had a big debate here, a very interesting debate in our group. There's a couple of major challenges. You cannot change the fact that a 22 or 23-year-old just doesn't have a whole lot of experience about the world. So we have a challenge of how do you get depth. And I think one that we are probably better able to address now is if you do have people with depth, how do you activate that talent from within? I think our big challenge is going to be, I've got these students who are coming in very young, very talented, and they just don't know enough about the world, and they have a slow hunch they might want to start something on their own. How do we get them to explore and discover for themselves what they're good at, what they're passionate about, how they want to make meaning in the world, what kind of risk are they prepared to take? Because until we address that issue, we have very limited ability to activate. And I find in my conversations with 23 and 24-year-olds, they need to go out and experience the world a bit more. And I think part of this project, the challenge is that is an intensely personal thing. It's a perception. It's a hard thing to measure. It's highly intuitive. And we've been focusing so much on the activation part, but activating what? What is the hotspot for an individual?
Are they really prepared to deal with complex problems in the real world? Or are they academically structured? Here's the technique, here's the equation, here's the Excel spreadsheet, and if it doesn't fit that template, they're lost.
There's two distinctive types of thinking structures. One that you find a lot in design and arts programs, and one that you find in engineering and business programs, and they're quite different. The design school, where I think is great fun, highly intuitive. You're trying to explore. It's gut feelings. This seems right to me. This smells right to me. This looks right to me, which drives people who are much more analytically trained crazy because they said, where's the framework? Where's the formula? Where's the chapter of the book that gives me the answer? What is the right answer? When you say, well, there might not be a right answer. What is the right answer for you? And the right answer for you might not be the right answer for somebody else. And these two worlds, which have been kept apart, are increasingly coming together. And I've had this discussion with an academy professor in Finland. I think students who are in highly analytical disciplines like engineering and business would greatly benefit. And part of the experience is for them to get more in touch with their own intuitive side. What am I good at? What gets me excited? What do I hate doing? How can I open up my mind to play a little bit before I decide this is what needs to be analyzed, but before putting stuff in boxes? And you need a balance of these two approaches, and schools yet haven't looked at how you design programs this way, to integrate both of these styles. MBA programs are looking at this right now, as we speak. Far too on the analytical side. Just look at a case study. You're given 20 pages of material with exhibits. The information is there. I prefer, here's a situation, and the students are asking me, where's the data? Well, you go out and find it.
And I want to frame the discussion of the world I think you're in. This is a world I hear a lot of companies in. And this is a world you're going to have to depart from. Because I will pick up on the theme from Alistair. I think you need to find a way to win. It's a mindset anybody in this room can, but you've got to get into a different place. I want to ask you, does this kind of look familiar? I'm an entrepreneurship educator, and we've been for, God knows, 20 years writing textbooks about this, setting up courses. I gotta have an idea. I got to have an idea. And we obsess about the idea. Is it good enough? Sound familiar? Is this a good enough idea for this company? We obsess about this. And then the next reflex, of course, because we're engineers going left to right, is plan. fire up your computer, start looking for past data, looking in the rearview mirror. In Europe, we talk about benchmarking, best practice. That's all looking in the rearview mirror. That's not looking forward, it's looking back. How creative is that? I ask. Ponder it. And then you raise a bucket load of money. Think big. I started teaching in Finland some 13 years ago, and the whole innovation system is designed and run by engineers. They should have listened to a few designers. You learn a few, I think some of the bias points I see that we can have a look at. And then you go to the beach. Right? If you think about it, yes, have idea, write plan, raise money, get out. Sounds simple, linear process, right? Does it work? Does it really work when I tell you that 98% of businesses don't raise venture capital? In my view, probably 95% of plus business plans that I read are garbage. And I think the key element about this is all innovation at the end. When you know what the problem is you're trying to solve, and you've kind of formed a view and started making some choices, but where I really want to see people play is at the front end with this. And you need to get in a very creative mindset. You start at a better place. Creativity for me is about being open-minded and observant. And the common trait that I see with a lot of creative people is they read a lot, they've been to a lot of places, they have curious minds, they keep diaries. I've got one in my briefcase that I note things down. And then suddenly you start seeing the world in a completely different place. And I can walk around and see opportunity everywhere. Opportunity everywhere. But it doesn't happen in a place like this. This is a little bit better than a school, but it doesn't happen in a place like this. I work at a new university in Finland. It's 3 existing bureaucratic schools trying to figure out what the next big thing is. And what do you think we're talking about? Old stuff, rearview mirror stuff, not looking at the things that are really difficult for us to do. The creative things that, what can't you do? What do you want to do that the people in authority tell you can't do? That's the stuff I'm interested in. And you don't get to a place like that unless you actually get into a space that says this is completely different. Let me show you our signature spot. That's our lecture hall. There's a 1950s trailer that is rather skunky in terms of smell, but that's a meeting room. It's an old factory. There's machines to build things, portable chairs. This is a shipping container. Interesting thing about that, a student at my alma mater in the United States of Mexican heritage took shipping containers and he's building homes for the poor in Mexico. 24 years old. Who would have thought you could take a shipping container and build a housing business out of this? And he is a social entrepreneur. Fantastic. I put up a video of watching this kid, you'd have tears in your eyes in 3 minutes. Or a place where this is the entrance. And if you know that this is a Wii machine, and I can tell you, Finnish kids, the shyest in the bunch, very obedient, very highly educated and trained, but we have a creative problem. 5-year-olds went through this place and the teachers had a problem. And I know enough Finnish to know that the kids were actually saying, 5 years old, school with a Wii in the front door? Where do I sign up and get in? Here's a kid who's ideating, thinking in a hammock. And what do you think the quality of the ideas and the insights are when you're in a space like that? Now I'm going to ask you a question. How do you sell that to a rep? How do you sell this to a company guy? This is more than show and tell. This is the first visiting point for people at our new university that we're doing things differently. This is our signature that we're weird and we're proud of it. And the reaction you want to get is, oh. Now you might ask me, does this stuff actually work? Companies are lining up to use this space. Because if you're going to be creative and you're going to be innovative and you want to get your people out of your normal routine, you're not going to walk them into a room at 10 o'clock and say, by 10:30 we're going to have 20 creative ideas. It will never work. It never happens. But when you get into a space like this, lots of places to play, fat boy loungers on the floor, excellent coffee, world-class infrastructure to communicate with people, and you're having conversations all the time with different people. It's a great environment for people to let down their guard and play. Seem obvious? Seem obvious? We've set up one of these in Shanghai. There is a 24/7 link in the main office of this building, and I can have a conversation with people in China any day. Exactly the same spot. If I had to brand this is called a design factory, but factory to me, and when I put a factory in my mind and you put an image of what that means, it's bricks and mortar and there's machines and it's building things. I actually think what this is an idea studio where you come in and play. And that's what I learned when I was at the design school.
And if anything I know about being an entrepreneur, being an investor, it's all about intuition. You sense opportunity, you feel you've got the skills to make it work, you think that the time is right. That's senses, that's not business plan analytics speaking, that's something in your gut speaking. And unless you actually have a finely tuned personal sense of intuition and some depth of knowledge about the domain, highly unlikely you're actually going to be able to build a big, successful enterprise. And this is the kind of tension we're in right now. This is, I think, we've had to grapple with in the Calfarino project. Creativity doesn't lend itself to sitting still and being analytic. And when you've got people who are highly intuitive, have a creative streak, are freelancers, you think trying to organize faculty in a university is a challenge, trying to organize creative types and harness their energy is doubly a challenge. But it's one I actually look forward to doing in this, particularly this discovery tool space, which is the front end funnel. Because you've got to solve some of these questions yourself before an intervention from an entrepreneurship educator makes sense. And I know there's interest at Alto to do this.